Go ahead and get started with roll call.
Okay. So I'm just going to call out the list of the committee members, and if you hear your name, you can just say present or raise your hands. First person is Adrienne Livingston. She said she's going to be a few minutes late, so I have that on record. Diana Rojas.
Hi.
Okay, there she is. Andy Santana May.
Present.
Janelle Theobald. TV Wilson.
Present.
Maricela Ortega. Grossman. And Liz Torn. Okay, I think that's all on the list.
I think we're going to go ahead and start off with, after doing a roll call, we're going ahead and we've talked about this in the past about reviewing the upcoming council meeting agenda, which is the other document, and just kind of take a little bit of time to go through it and see if there's any questions about what's on the agenda, and then so we can kind of provide some kind of clarification on what some of these things are. So go ahead and take a look at it. And this for the meeting next week, what is that? 14th, that's the Thursday, right?
Correct. In the morning this time.
A quick question about this. So for council members and staff, what time are we supposed to?
We're asking council members and staff and anyone from the public who RSVPs by Monday to start checking in at 9 at the gatehouse.
Okay.
In the event that it might take a little while to get everybody in.
The youth grant update, is that just like where we are in the whole process?
Yes, that's kind of an update, I think, but understanding that where exactly where we are in the process, the delay. Good update. So I think Paul Seller is going to be talking about that primarily. So can you give a little bit?
I am so glad you asked. So over the past year, we have started having at the quarterly council meetings, we've started having grantee spotlights. And so since we're meeting here at McLaren, we were hoping that you and Andy could provide a short tour. It's been suggested that we have like one destination or one thing that we go look at while we have everyone here. Brian said we'd have, half an hour out of the agenda time to everyone gather up, leave here and go. I was just trying to look at my notes to see some of the places that were suggested. And of course I don't have it ready, but any of the, like the school, the education stuff, if you have any ideas of Yep. Is it? So we'll like go to one edge and look and say like over there is something.
So it's not going to just be like find other things and be like, okay, this is what this is, this what that is. So for it to be 30 minutes, this is probably gonna be short.
Right. That was the drawback, but we still were hoping that there would be something that could show us the and we scheduled it in the agenda after, what was it called? I kept saying passing time, but after
The break?
shifts,
Oh, shift change?
shift change. Mhm. So we won't be interfering with anyone else here. Be able to go and look at something and then return. A work site, college, school, those were things that were suggested in some of the meetings that we had ahead of. So following this meeting, I think, if you want to come up with a suggestion, then I can send an email, to you all and the support folks and Brian, just with what you would like us to see. And then they're gonna make it happen. We can follow up on that after. We can sort of think about it a little bit. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
For some of our board, this would be the
Mhm.
Things about the common agenda. How often do you guys do these planning retreats? Most of you guys have. That doesn't happen very often, right? So in that retreat, we do have some retreat, usually retreat is like a little bit of that, well, but there's been different reasons. Usually this one that we just had is really around strategic planning. And kind of there was a series of this last meeting where staff gave quick 5-minute presentation, right, about a particular subject. About one of the grants, right? And in 5 minutes, the idea of this presentation to provide just enough information to where the audience who's watching the presentation asks questions to get more information on, or to kind of stimulate discussion. Right, and so we had a series of 3 or 4 of these. One of them was on choosing justice. One was on Anya's grants. One of them was on that youth grants. Yeah, it was a grant for the youth grants. The other one, Ford did one.
I'm like, let me.
Lucky not getting, well, yeah, you were the one in charge of the logistics. And out of that, final retreat, there was council given an opportunity to kind of come up with questions and also share them, right, and or suggestions about certain items and post them on a wall. But we were collecting basically feedback, right? The staff was collecting feedback. We had already done it with staff internally, but then we also wanted councils. We're talking about the last council.
Okay.
And you can feel free to jump in.
Okay.
You know, but it really was collecting feedback from the council with the idea of that information that we're collecting, and some of it was prioritization, where council and staff were able to see things that were up on a post-its, the board, the paper, and put these stickers on it, right? And you could clearly start seeing certain phrases or information that was posted up on here that kind of rose to the top. They had more stickers next to them, right? And so now the staff is tasked with using that information and incorporating it into the strategic plan. The strategic plan is kind of what drives the work going forward.
Yeah, we're really bummed that you guys couldn't be there. Like, we value you guys' feedback and we need that, you know, and I think that was something that came up a lot, like inclusive voice and, you know, and we've been talking about this for a long time, but we're like, okay, this needs to be prioritized. We need to figure out what we can do to make this happen. And so we talked a lot about, you know, providing incentives and like providing support, like for youth who maybe don't have transportation from like Portland to Salem, you know, being able to figure that out, because that's, I think, deters a lot of people. And so, and also the strategic planning was with the new governor being on board, I believe it was like required or something. And so that's kind of why we had the retreat. It's been a while since I think the last retreat was like before COVID. Yeah, so it's been a while. Yeah, so today, like for this meeting, it would be interesting to hear, like, you know, if you guys have feedback about anything, or if there's like, hey, we could be doing this better. Like, we really want to hear that. you know, and so the next meeting next week will be here, so. You know, if we have to do that every quarterly meeting, then okay, you know, but we, like, it needs to be easier for you guys to participate and, you know, add to the conversation, because I don't, it doesn't make sense for us to do all of this and not invite you. And so that's what we're hoping to prioritize moving forward.
Okay. Is there anything you want to add, Adrian, about the, or you were there to know about the council meeting the last one?
It's just really interesting, you know, not only the talks, but also the discussions that followed. There were a lot of like different perspectives that was all thinking.
What I would just add to that is, the question was, how do we engage different groups? And part of it, instead of us prescribing what we think the groups want, is like bringing you together, which other groups are already hearing, like, how do you feel like you want to be involved? What would make it actually beneficial for you to be there, so it's not just sitting down listening, but we want to capture voices, and how do you want to engage? How can we better engage you, instead of us just saying, okay, come to this meeting and then you're like there. Like, how can we better use your
And then also, like, just considering like your peers, you know, so we've discussed like potentially having guests and what that would look like here. So like, moving forward, that could be an option. We're looking into it. The staff is looking into it. Thank you all. But you know, just so that you guys don't feel singled out either, because like you can speak based on your perspective and experience, but we also want this to be like an open conversation. Like, we can include more youth, then great. But we do like foresee like you two like leading that conversation. And so I think that's kind of where Abe's youth presentation comes in. Is he's been tasked to create this youth presentation, and so he wanted some of the youth to be able to like provide insight. And is that focused on like participation, like how to increase participation?
Yeah.
Make it easier.
Yeah, definitely. And before I jump into that, I want to see if Diana, do you want to share any thoughts about the last council meeting? The retreat, I'm sorry.
Is there something specific?
No, just kind of your thoughts or feelings, just so
Oh, okay.
for those that weren't there, nothing specific.
I have nothing right now. Sorry, trying to gather my thoughts and listen to everything.
All good.
Abe, I have the topics that we talked about, the lightning talks, if you
Okay,
want to hear
there we
those
go,
were, okay. One was statutory updates, which was the one that Cord Bucher did, and then
just
data, sorry, go ahead.
Regarding statutory updates, that basically means changes to kind of what the legislation says, what the Youth Development Council and division is supposed to do. So kind of updates the language. And there's two different places where language is updated to better reflect kind of our work.
Right, what we're actually doing.
Yeah.
Data and evaluation, which Bill Hansel led. State advisory group and other duties of the council. So that was the one that Anya Sakina led. And the grant process, which is the one that Paul Sell led. And the last time that we had a planning retreat was in very early 2021. So usually it's kind of like a 3-year rolling cycle that we're on. And as Marisol mentioned, the governor required that every agency have one now. So we're updating ours.
And those slides and everything's still available, right?
It's under,
Any other questions about identifying you? So I'll go ahead and move on to the next thing on our agenda, where it says enhancing youth voice PowerPoint. So initially, this presentation, I was tasked with creating one of these lightning things. It was actually supposed to happen at the retreat. But we realized, well, it would make more sense if the youth presented it, right? Initially it was me, but like, why don't we hold off and do it so the whole council can do it. Right, so initially I created it for the retreat, and so I have it, but the idea for me also is like, why am I gonna give a presentation on youth voice? Right, and we actually have youth, we could probably better talk about what it takes to enhance voice. Right, that makes more sense to me at least, right? And I can help co if you want me to co-present, or you all feel comfortable, you know, present, you can also present. But I don't know if you have a copy of it or not, I can give you that. That's correct.
No, I don't. Can you send it to me?
Yeah, actually it's on here.
You, I don't know if you can talk about it, but-
Yeah.
Oh,
Let me see, is it on OneDrive?
you don't? No, let me check. It's also on my email, but I don't know.
Is it in the folder for the strategic?
I think it might be in there.
Okay,
Check
that's
real
where I'm
quick.
gonna look to
Okay.
see if it's in there. Standards, reviews. Lightning, nope, that's a bit. Template. Treat slide deck. It's under, just a blind, let's see. Oh, yep, it's back under admin and then under strategic plan. But I don't think.
What I could also do, I also have it on my Google account, my Oregon Learning account. I could download it from there.
Okay.
And if it, let's see. Did you ever CC me on an email where you had it?
I don't know if I did or didn't. To be honest with you.
Right.
Let me log in. I can log in and get it right there.
So,
I'll get it real quick.
because
Let me log
if
in.
they actually removed it from the slide deck.
Did they? I'll get it right now. Let me log out here.
Because I have the slide deck, but I think it's.
I can get it right now. Download it. And do you know where it downloaded
Yeah.
to? Let me get up now.
Thanks, Abe.
So the idea behind this presentation, I checked this recently again, compared to when I booked it, it was for that 5-minute lightning talk. Right, with that idea, and I checked with Ford this morning, just to confirm that, and he said that's fine. But really the idea behind it was, if you're not familiar with the lightning talk, is you give just enough information, like I said, where someone knows what you're talking about, but provides basically these people almost kind of hang out. What you be what Adrian, frame what your experience was with that.
That, or it's kind of like the person is presenting, they have like 5 minutes to present their idea, enough information. So then afterwards, everyone can actually have a conversation about it. So that's pretty much, and I think the total is like 15 minutes. So it's like 5 minutes to present and then 10 minutes for discussion.
And they're pretty strict, they have like a timer. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do, I'm gonna first kind of go through the slides of what the information I have. And then I think together as a group, we can go ahead and talk about it. If there's anything you want me to change or add. So again, the first slide, we'll probably have to change it. Who's gonna be presenting, but the topic overview, kind of what was gonna be covered in this 5-minute presentation. And this is an incomplete presentation. I don't think I finished the last slide, to be quite honest. And you'll see, because they said, Abraham, you represent. I'm like, oh, okay.
And although my name is there, I have not actually looked through it. I haven't contributed. to it.
Exactly, so like I said, it still needs to be edited, that's why we
Yeah.
came here.
Yeah.
The question mark is real.
Exactly. So that topic overview is what was gonna be covered in the presentation. It's kind of like the first slide, so understanding the challenges, right, in regards to enhancing youth voice. And some of this was based on a conversation I had, I believe it was with Oregon Health Authority has a youth advisory. I think it's them that has a council, and I had a conversation with their youth coordinator. And through those conversations and already some of the experience I've had here, and then also talking with you all, this is kind of what came out of those conversations. And so the first one, obviously, one of the recruitment, and we've talked about that already quite a bit, right? And how do you keep active participation, right? How do you have active participation, meaning the youth aren't just sitting at the table quietly the whole time, right? Are they actually participating? Are we actually listening to them, right? Retention, how do you keep youth, right? And then ensuring that youth feel satisfied and their experience is valued, right? And then I kind of put that YDO role, right? Because that's at the end. I may erase that. We'll figure it out. Right? And you'll see kind of how this plays out. So go to the next slide. So recruitment. And I kind of put these bullets. Well, how about meeting youth where they're at? Right? I think that's, key. Instead of, making the youth come to you, why don't you meet them where they're at? Right? Youth are the best recruiters. You're not going to get youth giving out flyers. Just saying.
Andy, do you want us to like add anything right now, or we're just listening as you go through the slides and then?
I think, yeah, just listen,
Okay.
and then, because I think that'll kind of lay out kind of the idea, incentives. Right, what are the incentives for youth, right? What can you say? Let's say if a youth has recruited another youth, what's the youth gonna say? Say, hey, you should join, right? Other than just that. And then what's the onboarding process, right? Because if the onboarding process is difficult, I mean, you may lose someone before they even on, right? Someone's excited, and ready to go, but oh, you know what? We can't have you yet. We're still waiting for this, right? And that's kind of, in a nutshell, what I would actually say during this slide. Next slide. Active participation. So one thing to keep in mind is logistics. When is the meeting, right? Versus when are youth available? Things such as school or other extracurriculars, right? Where is it? Right? So next one, location versus transportation. Where are the youth, and do they have transportation to be where they need to be? Other challenges, in-person versus online meetings, right? Does youth have easy access to the internet? Do they have the equipment, right? Would it be easier for them to do it online, or easier for them to come in person if they have to travel 40 miles, right? And the environment that you're creating for youth to participate, is it conducive? Do the youth have a point of reference in whatever topic is being talked about? Do they understand it? Can they contextualize it? Are the youth, do you have an environment set up where the youth are comfortable in asking a question? Right? And do you feel like they're actually bringing us something of value? Right? Are they feeling welcome, or like they're being considered as peers at the table? Next slide. Retention, and I say start off, see recruitment participation, because there's some overlap there, right? Retention is not going to happen if you don't recruit and youth aren't participating, right? Do we have enough youth participants, right? And do we have a youth forum, in quotation marks? I'm not talking about this general forum, but a youth forum where we have enough youth voices to say this is a youth voice. It's not just one youth voice, but different point of views from youth. And are the youth getting something? Are they looking forward to going to the meetings to be able to participate? Next slide. Again, some more overlap with recruitment, participation, retention in regards to what youth satisfaction and their value experience. Are they gaining anything from this? Right? And why, again, kind of in regards to recruitment, why would a youth recommend another youth to do this? And are youth being recognized for the work they're doing? Oftentimes, they're already doing other work. They're already a student, right? They may already be working. They may already be involved in other things. And this is one thing, but I think it's the work they're doing here. You're getting a direct, communication to the youth for work we're gonna do and or policies that we're saying, or things that we're advocating for, we're getting directly from it. You know, next slide. And that's where I. Because I think, go to, scroll down. All the way down again. Keep going. These are all like the template slides that are telling me how to write it up. Keep going down. That I think is supposed to be, that's what I didn't finish. What do we want to end on? And we haven't developed those yet, so we can develop as a group. But that's kind of what the presentation is. I mean, I guess my question to all the youth committee members, I mean, is there anything that can be added or detracted onto the slide? Or is that covered? I don't know if it cover everything, but the idea behind it was to give enough information where the council members start to think and ask questions. Right? But I don't know if there's anything you think should be edited on that.
I feel like I not edited, I just added like kind of like when you are recruiting like the youth, you have understanding the point. Like, do they have that understanding or point of the work that they're trying to do? Like for me, I love helping reforming the juvenile system. I love this. I know I got a voice. I love advocating. You know, so I got a point in here. You know, just making sure that we all understand the other point and he understand his point. Because if you don't have a point or understand fully what we're doing, you might not want to be there after the second or third meeting. That you know, so you want to evolve.
Is there one else think?
I'm kind of all for it right now. I kind of like the digest thing.
I hear.
So I think if I have any other like follow-up questions or something, ask, I would probably follow up.
Okay.
And you're able to send the slide to,
We should be able to, yeah.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
send it after this meeting.
and so maybe like you all have time. A lot of time.
Yeah.
But it would.
Because I think the only thing that said that was at the end. And the last slide is supposed to be kind of like these last questions that we have for the council. I mean, you can kind of see it there. So one of the easy questions I remember, I think that all the slides had was like, what's the one thing that stood out in this presentation that you would like to know more information about? Right, that's something I can go ahead and add in that. But that's kind of it. That's what we would ask to be presented. I don't know if we would want to, I can co-present if you want,
So,
or I can just leave
well,
it like, oh, y'all. present.
Yeah, maybe if there's like certain areas that people feel strongly about, then we can like take those on. But there is something on there that I think I would change
Mhm.
is the recruiting. So although like we talked about this idea of having guests on subcommittees and just for the council in general. So like if you all have peers here who you think might be interested or you think would be a good fit, then like bring them along so they can kind of see how like the council functions. But the reason why I think that we should change the recruiting or what you had listed like peer-to-peer recruiting is because the YDO has access to youth all over the state. So you guys have like a touch point with youth in the programs that we're funding in a way that none of the youth here do.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that being able to like, you know, meet with some of our community partners and be like, do you have a youth that feels really strongly about advocacy work, you know, or really has something to say about juvenile justice or sex trafficking or whatever it might be, you know, and then being able to like utilize that. Because I think right now, like we could be using those partnerships a little bit better. And then like, for me, I think when we talk about retention, we talk about youth participation, it's all about accessibility, you know? So for me, it's not like, do the youth want to participate? Yes, youth have so much to say, you know, like I mean, I'm not really a youth anymore, but when I was younger, I felt like I had more to say then, you know, like and I think the issue with, you know, when we talk about youth participation, I think it all comes back to accessibility. Are we making it easy for youth to participate? Do they feel heard? You know, and I think there's a lot of things that we could do as like the YDC and the YDO to kind of make things easier, for example. And I think Diana would have a lot to share here as well, because when she came on, things were a little bit different. But speaking from my own experience, when I joined the council, they provided transportation. So there was one person who would pick up all of the youth in Portland and drive them to Salem, you know, and at that time, like where I was in my life, I needed that in order to participate. And I think so many of our youth would be willing to participate, we would be able to provide something like that. And then also thinking of like young parents who want to join the council. We had a youth member who had multiple children and maybe didn't have access to childcare, you know, being able to provide some sort of childcare and things like that.
Can I ask a question since I haven't been on council, right? So in your experience and even all of you, so how were you engaged? Like, what was your involvement? That would be very interesting.
Because I could have heard it, like how you want to control or
That, and then when you're on the council, how you were really engaged, that whole that.
I mean, I'm not sure because I was doing other like other channels on, I wasn't really doing stuff like that. So I think I seen or I was on the summit because I was on CJJ, I was on the project. So I was at the summit. I think you guys must be joined. When I was on it, that's when I think at that time I was talking to Naomi and I run the CJJ. And that's when she brought it up. And then I think Kathleen that was here was talking to Naomi, and that's when they brought it up opportunity to me and Anthony, I think at the same time. And then when I got involved with this, I think it was just I was just learning. I was quiet for the first couple of times. I was just learning. I was mostly, I feel like the most I was engaged was like 2 weeks ago. When we were talking about all the mental health issues, we were talking about juvenile justice. Well, I mean, we talking about sex trafficking, we talking about we were talking about those things, like the guys and I can experience and talk about. I feel like that's when you don't have a voice. That's when you don't speak up like right here. But when we're talking about stuff that we really don't know, like when they bring in the native tribes, I listen, but it's like, I really don't know my native tribes. I just don't talk a lot of the time, so I don't really get involved in that. So that's how I sit back and listen.
That's a follow-up question. Thank you for that. That's really valuable. So when they started talking about those issues that really resonated with you, is it something they brought up, or was that from the youth voice saying, this is what we really like to talk about? I'm trying to see the direction so that we're engaging you instead of it being one way.
It was more beautiful. It was more, more me asking that question, you basing off of what somebody else was saying was my experience.
yeah, I think it has like what you want to get out of this. And then Janelle brought up mental health, and we all had like our discussion of like what was important for us.
Okay.
Or what we thought was like urgent.
This is my first meeting. That's why I'm asking these questions.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
No, thank you. And I'm so sorry, would you mind doing it? Because I don't think we all. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. No, I can't. No. Adrian Livingston from Portland, and I think this is my 4th year on the council member, and I've been on the justice committee. So, and I actually work in the area of sex trafficking and domestic abuse prevention. So,
No.
Yeah.
Sorry. My name's Andy. I go by Santana. I've been here as a youth thing for over 6 years now. And it's here, I've just been doing my college stuff, trying to get my farmer's license and get back into the community.
And Andy, how were you? So you were recruited with TV from CJJ.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
No, he was part of the CJJ. I wasn't. I was just part of the whole partnership with that. That's how I got involved because like a lot of the work that we did with the partnership at this facility was based on like building youth leaders and learning how to build like soft skills organizational skills. There's a lot within that program that like we try to bring guys that are in here who were here for a long time and teach them how to just be themselves with harmony. Yeah. I think that's how I got involved through her requesting. At first I was like, I don't know what this is. Like I've never heard of it until like I like was so surprised that this actually existed because I was like, oh, like I wish I would have done this when I was 18. Like, like at the time, like I was fresh here on the plane. So and I'm 24 now. So like when part of this conference, it's been like a real like eye-opening experience.
How were you?
I really recruitment. Well, before this, I was on, my city's ADA technical advisory committee. Actually, I helped to do that, but, well, basically, I was kind of already in the field of advocacy, so I was looking for new opportunities, and I don't know, I kind of like stumbled across the YDC website almost by accident. Just looking for like state committees and stuff.
I think you're the only one that was really, interested in doing it in that way. I think everybody else is looking. If Diana, if you can hear us, would you mind sharing your experience or the way that you were recruited to the board?
How I was introduced to the board. Hello?
Oh,
Can you hear us to the council?
Yeah. To the count, right. So how I was introduced to the council, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had just graduated. It was kind of a full circle moment. I grew up in Woodburn. I grew up in some farm worker housing and was involved then. Moved away. Then went on, pursued my higher ed at Oregon State. And my first job was back in that same community that I had lived in since when I was a child. And then Jaime, who was a council member, Jaime Arredondo, is the one that was like, oh, like based on your experience and your work, like I think this would be a good fit. And he knew that, I mean, I like politics and that was something that I really wanted to be involved in again. And yeah, he introduced me.
I think some of you may have heard my experience already, but just in case, really quickly, I went through the foster care system and I somehow made it out, went to higher ed. In my senior year, my junior senior year, I did an internship with DHS working with foster youth. I also worked with youth at Donald J. Long Detention Center. So I had some juvenile justice background as well, and Northeast Youth Project. And yeah, I interned with them, so it was a while ago. But I was introduced to the YDC through DHS, and that was a very like interesting full circle moment because a lot of youth that go through foster care, they go through DHS, they're like, I don't want nothing to do with you guys ever again, and so for me, that's how I felt when I was younger. But as I got older, I'm like, okay, I'm going to use the system. I'm going to use every resource that they can offer me to, figure out a way out, and so for me, that's what I did. And what is his name? Bobby Bridges at the time was working for DHS, and then he later became a staff for YDC or YDO. And he's the one that actually gave me the application, like, hey, you should apply. And I wasn't going to. I was like, he gave me a deadline too. And I was like, I don't have time for this. At the time I was, towards the end of college and working 2 jobs. And then finally I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it, and so I did. And I'm really happy I did because this is now my 7th year on the board and I have till December of next year. And in that time, similar to you, like, I feel like it took me a while to get comfortable and like find my voice and like share my experiences. And this is so interesting, because like for me, it's not that I am embarrassed, like I'm not, like I'm very proud of my experiences, but I don't feel like initially it was an environment where I could share, you know? And so that's kind of like what I really want to focus on in the next year, is like, how can we make this a comfortable space for you guys to feel like you can share your experience, but also understanding that like we don't want to exploit that, you know, like we want you to know that that can come at their own pace and not to feel pressured or like used. Because I think, you know, I come from the nonprofit sector where sometimes it can feel like we're using their situation, you know, as, you know, and so, yeah, so there's a lot of things like that, that like, I would really like your perspectives on.
Questions? Yeah. So just to kind of tie a bow on this, the PowerPoint here. So next step, I think we can do is share that out. And then within next week, because the meeting's Thursday. Right, so I can go ahead and get that shared out Monday morning.
Yeah, I can.
I could actually I'll write up some just discussion questions, but, because we'll have to get it ready for you by when?
I think Monday's fine. I can share.
No, but I'm saying, no,
Monday.
when do you need it for the meeting?
Oh, when, for Thursday's meeting?
Yeah, by when do you need it? The final.
Wednesday.
By Wednesday, what time?
Probably 3 o'clock would be great.
So what's gonna happen then, Monday, I'll send it out Monday morning. Very good, before 10 o'clock to be put on, get it sent out.
We can send it, we can send what we're looking at now, but then if you want to follow up with questions on Monday,
I can go ahead and send it out now, yeah.
is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that way. We can.
You know what would be great, actually, send it out in a link that we can all edit. Exactly.
Mm.
Does that work for you all? Have you worked on the Google Drive? Okay.
We can do Google Drive, we can also do it on Microsoft. We can do a public link on the Microsoft on the OneDrive also. But it is PowerPoint, so everyone would open it and anybody can make edits to it. So we could do that. Either way, whatever works. Okay. At the end of the day, whatever works. So we can get that set up, that'd be great. That way we can all see people working on it, ask questions.
Would you like people to make edits on it, or
I think yeah, I mean,
should
I'll
we
be
just
looking
send
at
an
it.
email?
Yeah,
Okay.
periodically, and I think, I'll be able to kind of communicate with there. At the end of the day, I think we just need to know who would feel comfortable presenting. And we can determine that online, or I don't know if anyone's comfortable, would be comfortable right now or not. That sounds like you feel comfortable. Sounds good. Like I said, it's not long.
Yeah.
That's
And
okay.
also another way we could do it would be like you present what your findings were, and then like a panel situation.
That's kind of the way,
Yeah.
the very end is just gonna be a panel. At
Yeah.
the very end, so that's kind of the idea where I actually don't find it speak, right? Something that we're realizing, and this is out, we've spoken about it in previous iteration, right? About the amount of, and it's in the presentation, to be quite honest. And I'm sure Joy and Melissa can speak to this. The amount of logistics, but right now we're so small as a youth committee. But if we go in the direction we want to grow it, the logistics and bandwidth that that's gonna take is gonna increase significantly. We're talking about, is it access? Right, because that idea that you said, well, we see, well, yeah, it's an access issue. And this is kind of, these are the questions I think that we're talking about, we want to come out in the discussions. Right, because I don't know, right, I don't know that all the council, not if you actually bring these topics up and they start thinking it through, you're like, oh, wait, you're right, so-and-so's this age is in school, but they get out at 3, and so-and-so lives out here in Wilsonville, and it's here, you know, we're having the meetings here, and someone has to pick that up, right? But is the process also easy for them to get reimbursed for their ad? Okay. Right? What's that process? Is it an easy process? Right? Because there are challenges that we'll have to get discussed through that we haven't discussed with either council yet. But those are the type of questions that I'm hoping that we kind of start, we get from the council saying, well, what does that actually do? I mean, you know, because right now, just, I mean, to have it here, there was logistics that had to get taken care of. It said, I didn't bring my laptop because the previous all can't bring that, right? But there's certain things that we have to ask for and get authorization for, right? And it doesn't always happen instantly. Right, so there's time that you do it in advance, right? And then again, there's always other little things that happen. Perfect example today, right? Well, do we have this or that? Well, I have it here. Oh, but we can't access it that way. Okay, well, so I think those are other things that we're all kind of coming from different places, but there's no one orchestra.
Yeah, there's no one really coordinating it. And but with that being said, I think that this is something that as a council, as a SAG, like the state advisory group, we need to prioritize that. So like there are ways to get through those. It needs to be a priority. And so also like Brian has talked a lot about expanding youth voice and like increasing the youth participation on the board. But it's like, are we really ready to do that? Or do we have like the systems in place to accommodate those youth? And I think especially for rural youth, we don't, you know, and so like that's something that we have to work through.
Or even from a geographical
Yes.
perspective, like if there was a youth from Eastern Oregon.
Yeah.
Think about the logistics around that. So, but like I said, well, like I said, I'll go ahead and we'll work to get that shared out and we'll work on it and we have everything ready by Wednesday. We'll go from there. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the next thing on the agenda, which is kind of the brainstorm session that we had talked about previously. Now, the idea behind the brainstorm session is really to kind of come up with actionable things that I think we can work on in the short term, midterm, and long term. Right now, it's just in the idea stage. And today, I just want to get a bunch of ideas written down, right? And eventually kind of narrow those ideas and see, well, let's see what's feasible, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and bring that over here. I don't know if someone, right, but I don't know if someone's got nicer handwriting than me.
I can. Put it over here?
Yeah, you know, there it's easier. Is that right? You want to pick it up? Want me to just post it on the wall so you can write it on?
Right now, it's
Like right here, can anyone can see it?
it's 5.
It's okay. I'll just, yeah.
Diana. Hey, Diana.
Yeah, Diane, you can't see it. Move it over.
The agent.
It's okay. Okay.
But yeah, so. They all have that, so. You have to follow. I want to say it was like. Did Brian pull 30% or 40% of the board?
What's the question?
Brian had a goal of like, was it 30%?
I would say it was higher is what I want to say,
Yeah,
but I don't recall. I think it was
I
higher.
wanna say it was like 40%.
Yeah,
And that's the
I think it was even 50.
I think it might have been 50.
Was it? Yeah, maybe it was.
Because right now we're at 20%, it's required.
Yeah,
The SAG requires it to be
Yeah.
20%, so. On that note, I would just like to note that we have every youth in attendance at this meeting. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Not sure that that's happened before, but
Yeah.
well done, well done.
So I think to get started really is, I mean, kind of think of just ideas that you think would be something No, because I know that in the past, some of the ideas,
I'm sorry, or, what ideas for what again?
so kind of actionable things that we can work on,
Okay,
right, as a council, that we can actually participate and get, for lack of a better word, get our hands dirty, you know? Something that we can, but I would also even think outside the box, things that are more complex. Because, just because we can't do it now doesn't mean we can't do it later.
and are you talking about the youth committee or the entire council?
I'm talking about the youth committee.
Over that?
And some of these things may bleed into the council. And I I'm saying, the reason I'm saying is also think outside the box and think bigger. Is because I said, we may not be able to do it right now. But if we continue to get this kind of a momentum, this is kind of just me projecting, really, the idea is, if we're able to get enough youth, right? We will have significant voice on the council with the numbers, but I think with the expertise as well. Right, you'd be the subject matter experts, to be quite honest. You're the youth. At the end of the day, you know, so we could have some more leverage, I guess, you know, making an impact on fellow council members, right? As well as on kind of what influencing kind of decisions that we, you know, Brian makes. That was staff will add. So, you know, this is just kind of, for now, it's on my end, is just give everyone that voice to say, I think we should do this, we should do this, right? And not really to think into the details of the weeds, but think of the big picture. And then after we have a bunch of ideas, then either if we have time this or next meeting, we can start kind of sifting through those. And the term, okay, well, you know what, let's over here, and so on and so forth. That's kind of my thinking. That make sense?
Yeah.
I throw out one idea for you all. Yeah, as the council admin, that each committee have at least one youth member, so we have youth voice represented on each of the other committees. And the other committees are, am I gonna?
Actually, I need to push further. I push more than one youth member, because what I don't want to come across is them being the total
Right.
youth member.
Right, yeah, especially as we grow the youth membership.
I would say 3 to 4 youth members.
But also keep in mind that,
Oh,
Yeah, it's a time commitment.
Well, that's.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's fine. This is kind of thinking outside the box too.
yeah.
So,
In that ideal world, agree.
right,
Well,
you say,
Yeah, yes.
you're saying youth plus youth.
Diana's like, I can't see
Oh.
it. Sorry, Diana, you can't see it.
It's okay. I'm listening.
Chime in if there's anything you want to add.
Thank you. Echoing everything that is being said.
Another one, the transportation, just kind of like what we talked about. We could expand on how do we get like members to and fro, like from different locations.
The actionable item would be like helping figure that out, or maybe saying what we need to make transportation work.
Figuring out what we need. Yeah, I like that idea.
I'm thinking you asked for actionable items, so I think actionable from the youth is
Saying what you need, what the youth need. Does that make sense?
I don't know that I have the thought through framework based off of what you said. You start to get engaged when you felt that it was a safe community. What's the actual item that we put on there that we can then get to the committee the council being safe, or you could share their voice.
So I don't know what the answer is here at McLaren, but like speaking from my own experience, that came when Serena was our executive director and started having like lunch dates outside of the council, outside of, you know, and so I don't, could we do that here? Like
I was just
you know.
gonna say the last couple meetings that we had that weren't committee meetings, they were
Yeah.
member meetings, and that was the objective. One of the objectives, Adrian, was to just get together and get to
Yeah.
know each other in person here. So this is our third meeting at McLaren. Like we ramped up to this being a committee meeting. So
That's what we were doing. I think Sanji,
Yep.
she did it for, she always checked up on us, she like set calls all the time.
like summarize that. What is that?
Universal communication.
Consistent
I think we can write all that. You
and
said,
personal.
what are they called, like, did you say something lunches?
Alive for lunch dates, but I mean, I'm sure there's better. But just gathering.
Informal gathering.
I was just
Yes,
gonna
and
say
informal.
non-council, yeah.
Yeah,
Informal, because that'd be people that we, and this is, I think, this may even apply to a larger council, but if we set up lunches before the meeting,
Mhm,
right?
Yeah. Definitely breaks the ice.
right.
yes.
Their relationships, okay.
And I think, yeah, that's the biggest part, like building community, knowing each other. Like, you don't know me, obviously you're not gonna know me. If you don't know my situation or my experience. And so, like, the more we all get to know each other, then we're able to really build together, so.
Is that, again, as we say, not really helping you, you don't build a relationship.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of that next step where you said that relationship part, right? I think is extremely important. Right? I think, like you mentioned with Sanji, is really good. Because she told me.
She was acting. Yeah.
You know?
I'm like, why have you not texted me? And I'm like, my bad, I'm sorry. You know. But no,
Exactly.
I think that's, it's important, and that's where that consistency is so important, because like, it's easy to do this here and there, you know, but we do need the consistency.
Consistent. I mean, those two right there go
Yeah.
hand in hand, those two bullets right there. Right?
I'm remembering council discussions about mentorships, and I think one of the moves toward that was opening up the youth committee to non-youth members. Thank you to those who have joined. That was part of that, like building those relationships and not being so siloed or so isolated from each other. But as far as actually establishing, mentorship relationships, I don't know that we've done that yet.
Yeah, I think they're messed up early.
I still like the idea, and let me know how you guys feel. I feel like for me, it's like professional development as well, and so like that's why I'm interested. But I don't know if it would be, I don't think it would be a waste of time for others. But I don't think you get, or maybe you would get a lot out of it. You know, I don't know. So that would be interesting for me to hear.
I would even make other communications consistent informal gatherings. You know, we're calling them informal gatherings.
That is
Professional.
all
That's
mentorship.
that's all mentorship
Yeah.
and professional development.
It kind of leads to it, right?
I mean, I think for example, just a simple conversation I was just having with him earlier. Oh, he just asked me like, well, how'd you end up getting a youth out? You know, those little conversations, I think really do impact. I know for me, those type of conversations when I had with people, they really impacted me when I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. Right? When I was in my 20s, right? So I think those two things and be able to set something up with other council members and these informal spaces, I think I think the process there is figuring out how we structure something that way, right? Because for some, it might be easier organically, for others, I mean, especially I think in the youth realm. And like I said, a youth isn't just gonna automatically open up. It takes time, but also figuring out, making sure you have the environment for that to happen, right?
Adrian, we're building on that. I think of leadership too, just being like, as a youth, what do you want to do? And learning, and part of the capturing the data is finding out what do you want to do, and maybe then putting them with a person that is doing or has an idea of how to get them there so that they can help them. So that to me would be more of that, both a mutual relationship of I'm getting out of it because I love helping, like you love helping. And the youth is getting out like, oh, here's this person that can help me do X, Y, Z. That's in addition to the informal stuff, but that can be more of the formal part.
Do we go ahead and add like mentoring? Or mentorship?
Yes, but probably putting that more definition to it so that it's paired with someone that is like-minded doing what the youth that wants to do to help them.
Yeah, like, what are your interests?
Exactly.
And how can we help you figure that out, you know? And then also on that, and this is a little bit different, but little things, like providing a reference letter for school, for jobs, or whatever, you know, like how can youth need to be able to utilize this space and benefit from it as well. And so we want to help you guys do that.
I'm gonna tell you, I actually have helped, I've actually led workshops on writing essays and for scholarships. And this is where what you say, it actually goes hand in hand. I don't see it separate because the youth is building a relationship with the person that's helping them. That means it's over a period of time. That would definitely be the person I say, you know, can you write a record for me? So I actually see it one and the same, actually. Exactly.
I mean, you know, we're going to fill all these ideas, right? But if we make a survey that asks you, like, what would make you interested in council? Have you heard of council? Like, I don't know, what are your biggest barriers to joining?
Surveying youth about joining the council.
And I think it'd be really cool to survey past youth to figure out why they weren't able to stay on the board or why it didn't work out, or, you know, getting that feedback, which we've never.
Brian? I'm assuming it was separate. Not now, but.
Brian, I don't remember Brian. I was here when, it was, but we had two other OIA.
Brian, I know Brian, YA.
I think we should try to get that one. Light, there was light and some another. Yeah. So,
Oh, that's right. I know in the past, there was, and I think it was.
Bobby.
Sorry.
I was like, I know I have it right now. Yeah.
But it's something that, we did this last time, but there was like a youth summit where providers came and there was youth panels.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we did a youth summit. Is that where you're talking about?
Yeah,
The
I
one
don't know,
we
that's
did?
still something that would be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that is so powerful because that was like the most engaging piece of the summit was when the youth panel was there, and I believe early go back to work, but yeah, that's what I heard. So kind of feeding off of that, I think it's really important and something that we could do differently. And this kind of goes with the onboarding process is, I wish like they would have explained the difference between YDC and the state advisory group and how for me, it was all one and the same until like not long ago. And I was like, oh, these are two separate entities. And then also with that, I think it was super powerful for me to be able to see other state advisory groups function because these are youth who are really like doing things in the advocacy world for youth. And like, I hadn't seen that because I didn't feel like we were doing that here in Oregon. And in other states, youth are like trying to hold folks accountable and like, you know, with that, like, I also didn't know that as a state advisory group, we're the ones that are holding like facilities accountable to what because they're receiving federal funding, so they have to do certain things. And so I forgot her name, the woman that was at
Lindsay.
the-
Lindsay's
Lindsay is the
who
one that goes to
to
each
all
facility.
Facilities, make sure there's
Yeah.
sound separation between adults and youth.
Yeah,
And she makes sure that they're following the correct policies and procedures, right? Because if some facilities start, my understanding is if they're severely out of compliance, that could jeopardize future funding that
For
goes
them.
to all the different facilities.
yeah.
If only a few of them are out of compliance.
And understanding that the SAG is a big part of that, like, that's why we have a SAG, a required, and so I think that that's really important for you to know, because understanding that like what you're saying does influence. And it can, I don't know, like, we need to build that power for you, I think.
So I think, so I'm hearing sort of like a SAG deep dive, but then like into what ours is, but then also learning about other SAGs that exist in other states.
Yes,
Is
yeah.
that- Okay.
So there's like the CJJ, I think is where I learned about it more, but got to meet like other states and hear what they're doing and like how they were able to overcome certain obstacles, or how certain things that we see as obstacles here, like they don't even have to deal with,
Basically attending
Yes.
those advantage conferences.
Yes.
It took me an embarrassingly long time to remember what SAG stood for when I started this job. I kept having to be reminded that it's the State Advisory Group, and there are others around. There are lots of others, so.
CJJ is Coalition for Juvenile Justice. Yeah. So it's a national coalition. They gather every year in Washington DC, and then I believe in Tacoma.
Yep.
They
do some really neat work.
Right, I think the best, one of the best work. Like they got the workshop, you choose which one they got the most experience in, and that's where they can talk about. It was my first time talking in front of 2,000 people. I talked in front of 2,000 people. I was nervous, but it was just like, I got into the work. I was very into my work.
Once you started talking, it just kind of like, and then the thing is, the thing about that, I think they really set the proper environment for the youth.
Thanks.
To be able to feel as comfortable as they can, to where I think, the youth are initially nervous when they go up because you're speaking in front of so many people. Right? But I think once the youth realizes, like, oh wait, they're listening to me, because you're not seeing one person, but you're seeing everybody at once, right? And they're listening to me, and they're hanging on all my words, and it's pretty impactful. I think for everybody involved, for the youth involved, and for the people attending. Right, it's just amazing because I think for a lot of people in the field who are first starting out, go to these conferences, it really is impactful. So I think that's what made it like, I want to stay in this. Can I handle it? Because there's a lot of heavy stuff happening at those conferences in regards to the content.
Yeah, like for me, it's never felt like tokenization. Like there's a lot of youth there, and it's like people are really engaged. Were you in person or was this virtual?
No, it was virtual, but like when I do it virtual, I remember they asked me to go to COVID. I could have went down there, but something happened here with preventing me that, so I did it online.
Okay.
But I was still engaged a lot. It's because like before then, like how they do it, just like they bring like you were talking about outsourcing, they bring other resources into the groups, and like they talk about what the youth experience, like the prison to school to prison pipeline. They watched someone wrote a book about the person that wrote the book. Got a lot, really sold a million copies, whatever. She came on and started talking about it with us, and like that was kind of the workshop that we did. We talked about her book after that. So they just really outsourced, and that got everybody involved. They made sure like they did not talk. Naomi, she was the one that ran all the meetings. She did not talk. She like this. You guys need this. You guys can figure it out. Yeah, to engage in, I will. But just you guys.
That's true. And you can have the votes for it. Yeah. Yeah, another thing also I think that I see up there also, and I think Brian talked about it. I don't know this from a council perspective, but I think, like you said, 30 minutes. facility to get a tour, right, to get a feel for it, right? You know, but that might be something, and this is kind of thinking externally, right, for, and this is also for other youth, because right now I'm thinking long-term, right? Having youth committee members know what the facility, you know, getting a tour of the facility, other youth. And I think also providing for that youth cross communication between youth. Right? Because I think you never know what another youth is going through, right? When you yourself are going through something else, right?
So are you saying like youth tours
Here,
here,
but I
youth
think-
tours OYA?
I said youth tours here, OYA, but I think more so, I think cross communication between youth members. Right, and I'm just kind of thinking big picture, because I think as we get more youth, you know, fingers crossed, I want the youth to also get to know each other. Because I got that sense that you're got that. There's some really tight relations that form. You know, but I think because again, it was kind of an environment that was set up for you.
For everybody to like share their perspectives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Was there ever anything that, I'm thinking, like you have a camp, not that it's called a camp week, but something that is specifically like you all are together and you're bonding, forming, something like that. Yes, and that launches those and that, you know, well, everyone into then serving. Yeah, 'cause I think sometimes when you're there together that week, some relationships can be very fun.
Yeah, just think about what happened with our 2 days last week with the
Yeah.
strategic planning. Like we get to meet you in person for the
Yeah.
first time.
You can have fun,
Yes.
work,
And that means, I mean, like, what if you had a youth onboarding process? I suppose where the youth is the one said, here's what's gonna happen, here's what needs to happen, because I think
That's the big one.
as much, if we can get as much as the youth to do this, that internal work, that adds on. I mean, I don't know, what do you else?
I think that that's great. So I know everybody's experiences were different. My experience onboarding to council was like this humongous binder. Wow, I work 2 jobs and I go to school. I'm not gonna read that.
Right.
You know, like, yeah, so it's like, you know, yeah, like a meeting, like a retreat or something. You know, at the very least lunch, you know, let's talk over lunch. This is what you're coming into. This is what you should expect. Let me know if you have questions. Being able to have like a smaller group to ask and feel a little bit more comfortable before you jump into the full council, because that can be intimidating.
Right, then you sort of have your cohort of the folks that started new at the same time as you.
I feel like you gotta understand the way, or that, the first meeting, I feel like someone should, I feel like you should just be there and not have to even talk or anything, because they, I feel like they need to observe, because I'm sitting here, I'm still confused about what they talking about, how, why they talk about it the way they do. Like, I don't understand why they do the way they do, so I just sit there and I'm just confused about it, but more than half of me. And I told Brian that too, like, I'm trying, but it's just like the way you guys just do it is just not, I don't understand it. You know, so just letting them know that when they come on, just, it's gonna be confusing at first, but observe and just let it and ask questions. Give that of a water hose.
Yeah, that's basically what it is, that's exactly what it is, because like, but I think, to be quite honest, I think that's for you, for a lot of the adult council members.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's just because,
There's certain categories where it's like, I don't have much to offer to this category. And that for a lot of people could be like grants or administrative, like policy, I don't know, like, can you break it down a little bit? Because it's, you know, it could be lost in translation. And so but that's also like the point of us having these meetings, is so that we, like, how can we make it more digestible?
and as you say, as an adult, I was coming, as you are, coming into something that's already existing, so there's a lot of work that happened beforehand. It's like, wait, what am I coming into? So then I don't even feel like I'm not gonna respond, because maybe they've addressed it, yeah, so I understand. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of how to sort of summarize that. Just it's like warn the youth that it's not a bad warning.
you know,
just
and
like-
I mean,
it's relational, it's like relatable, like you can relate what your experience was, so.
Full understanding. I don't know how to word it either. I just thought they just need a full understanding. Because I understood what the work was, just not how it was going to be presented or how they are.
Mhm.
You know,
It's just hard to conceptualize. When they're talking to the council, right? You said, they're not gonna, wait, this is the background and this is how we are. No, it just happens. You need to vote. You're like, I just got here. I don't even know. Oh, we need to wrap up. We have 5 minutes left.
there's no college for me next week. And then, I don't know if my manager is gonna be able to meet me to like, get it either.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't even know how that's gonna be possible today for like that college.
so worst case scenario, for some reason you're unable to access information. What'll probably change the most, I'm gonna say probably that last slide. But here's the cool thing about the information that I have, going back to the PowerPoint, is it can be a little vague. Like almost the more vague you are in some of the things, you don't have to get concrete specifics. You kind of want to hang a little bit, where they're like, wait, well, can you tell me more? Because the idea is to create discussion after the discussion. You know, and it happens, it'll happen naturally because you saw how much information I have on it. There's like 3-4 bullets per slide. If there's only one slide, I think that's 6 bullets. Right? Each slide will take you a minute. Let's look at it. Right? I was kind of giving the presentation as I was talking about it, but at the very end, I'll have some questions. Like, here's some questions, but again, it's a idea to get them, you know, kind of for a little bit for a while in there, then they'll ask the question. And that in itself, those questions, it's probably going to be to you, Paul. Right? And if there's something you can't answer, we'll probably jump in. I'll guarantee you we'll just probably have the answer. Or there might not be an answer at all, which is even probably better. So place, because that's where the council and or to really work on.
We will have to like, so I gotta like, that's the question of how you consider, what do you consider about you, they're gonna ask for, how would that look? You know, so they.
And you can talk that way, and that's the thing. You can go ahead and give the answers that you have. This is the cool thing, I think, like, this is the very, because like I said, you have the answer, right? It's like, for my particular, this is what would help me. Yeah. Right? And she's like, well, in my case, this is what would help me. And this is what I'm talking about earlier, about having more youth and different. You know, because there's no better approach. We all know this. I think with that, you know, if nobody has anything else to add.
We just
I'll
need
adjourn
to,
the-
we need to
Thank you,
figure out
everybody.
the next meeting,
The next
when
meeting?
we're having the next
Oh.
meeting, yeah,
We just said big one. We're not wrapped up.
almost.
All right. So, it'd have to be in January now, or is it quarterly?
So we try to have it quarterly, like probably like the week or the Friday before the council meeting,
Yeah, I think I
so.
sent an email with
Yeah.
the potential date. I don't remember right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
For the,
I think the next one is March.
Yeah,
Yeah, so a week before, or next quarter.
and
Okay.
I mean, and you all can decide to meet more frequently than that if you want to or need to, but for sure the meetings before the quarterly meeting.
Yeah, at the very least, yeah.
Okay.
And Fridays work best for everyone?
Yeah.
Right? March 8th.
is that a quarterly?
So our quarterly is March 14th, so the
Okay.
Friday before, if that's enough time, is
Yeah.
March 8th, or March 1 if you want to do 2 weeks.
Okay, does March 8th work for everyone or March 1st?
Or March 1. March 5th is a Tuesday.
I don't have my calendar, so.
So there's March 1 or March 8.
Yeah.
if it's-
But maybe we can
Okay.
follow up.
Yeah, we'll follow up.
Yeah,
I
we'll
think that
follow
works.
Okay.
Far enough out there.
Cool.
That's on the agenda, that mean also if you want to meet more frequently, that's also an option.
Totally an option, yep.
Y'all decide. All right, I think meeting's adjourned. Thank you, Diana.
Thank you.
Thanks, Diana.
Bye.
Um,